this term before, but this is something that's very much on the mind of Israeli public, politicians, and the courts. Shivyon banetel means equality in shouldering the civic burden. Practically, this is about the non-participation of the Haredi man in the IDF, in the defense forces, in the army. Now, the court has handed down a landmark constitutional ruling declaring the growing exemption, starting with 400 by Ben Gurion and reaching over 60,000 recently, of yeshiva students from military service is unconstitutional because it is such a violation of the principle of equality. Now, that was in the backdrop of the last elections, and if you read our analysis, you would know that it had tremendous impact on the outcome of the elections and the rise of Yesh Atid, Yair Lapid's party, and is now back in the hands of the government that is claiming to legislate new law which would institute equality in shouldering the burden. Now, this is fascinating because we at Chidush have analyzed the proposed bill that was developed by a governmental committee headed by Minister Perry, and our conclusion is that while it may have the label of equality in shouldering the burden, this is like a fruit salad without fruit. This is equality in shouldering the burden without equality. You'll be able to read more in our analysis, which you can reach through the link below. But there are 4 key reasons, among others, why we hold that the proposed law will not achieve its end of equality. One is that while everybody else serves from the age of 18, the yeshiva students will be exempted and will be obligated to serve, if they're obligated to serve, only from the age of 21. Well, at that point, many of them are already married with children, and the likelihood of them being able to do real effective service is slimmer. The other is that it'll only take effect, the obligation to serve, in 4 years from now. Well, if anybody thinks that after the next elections, with a new government, this is going to ensure that service, equal service, is going to be carried out, then, you know, they live in a movie, as we say in Hebrew. So, 4 years from now, new government, new political considerations, there is no telling if there's going to be any obligation to serve. 3, while they're at it, they're exempting some 50,000 yeshiva students who would be required to serve had the law been applied already. Now, they're exempting them from service altogether. And 4 has to do with the sanctions. What about those who won't serve? And already the Haredi community announced they're not going to serve. The law proposes criminal sanctions. We know that criminal sanctions will not work. We have seen that with a handful of families that refuse to allow a Sephardic girl or Sephardic girls into an Ashkenazi school, predominantly Ashkenazi school. The court sending them to prison was not at all effective. The only effective sanctions are economic, are civil sanctions. Stopping funding the yeshivot, stopping funding those yeshiva students. Unfortunately, the government has chosen not to use these sanctions, but rather to provide for criminal sanctions which are going to be totally useless. Not when we are when we are dealing with a community that is ideologically motivated in such an extreme fundamentalist way in numbers, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. So in short, this is an issue that is very much in the news in Israel, and if you want to know what's going on in Israel, you better understand something about it. You can read the Chidush analysis and find out why This equality in shouldering the burden is not going to happen if the governmental bill is going to be the bill adopted.